uh, uh, I don't want to put it, million-dollar people type sessions. They like to hear what I have to say for some odd reason. Don't know why, but it motivates them. A part of who I am as an individual is not just church, not just business. A part of who I am is somebody who had the opportunity to connect with diversity. Every single one of you as parents that have students within this particular system called MECO, we all know that there are challenges, right? We all know and understand that especially issues of diversity ultimately makes it a little bit more challenging for your children. Let's just be honest. If we were all placed in this room and we were to all speak out our nationality, none of us would be able to say that we are 100% Caucasian, right? None of us would be able to say that we are 100% Asian. Okay? These are the type of settings that your children are entering into on a daily basis. Just a little bit about me. I went to Lexington, started in Brighton schools, went to Lexington over in the 3rd grade. My 3rd grade teacher was Miss Martin. Miss Martin, she loved me for some odd reason. She loved me. But what I noticed within my first, I want to say, 2 weeks of being there, and it's funny because I remember this as a somewhat unfortunate story, but within my first 2 weeks, mind you, I'm in the 3rd grade, I urinated on myself. But I did that because of nerves, because I was scared, never really in a setting as to where everybody around me was different. I mean, let's be honest, if we go to the grocery store and, we see people with different, everybody handles their kids differently, right? Mommy, I want it. No, you don't. Yes, I do. Shut up. And it's okay, right? It's not how I was raised, not what I was taught. So, with Miss Martin, I began to build a connection with her, begin to connect with her, tell her certain things that were going on with me. One, getting up very early in the morning. Your students, your children are already at an unfair advantage just by the time that they have to get up in the morning. Getting up, 6:30 bus stop. Other students in Arlington, this is the case here, they don't get up until about 7:45, 8 o'clock. School starting at 8:30, right? Students already have an unfair advantage. And I remember always saying to myself, sitting in the school, listening to people, I always said, I want to get the best experience possible from this. The reason why I wanted that was not because I wanted to, start a church, not because I wanted to be an entrepreneur, not because I wanted to make a lot of money, not that, but because I knew that there was something different about the opportunity that I was afforded that people that I went home to didn't have that same opportunity. Here's the problem. The problem is not the children. The children will make the sacrifice, okay? Because every child wants to please their parent. No matter how much of a knucklehead they act like when they're not around you, okay? They still want to please their parents. So they'll get up at 6:30. They'll get up and brush their teeth, throw on their clothes, stand outside, be cold. How many of you put a whole heap of Vaseline on your kid's face before they get out the car, right? Just a whole heap. They look like shiny or rust, right? And the shinetations, right? So they will do it because mommy, daddy asked them to. The reality is that that's not the problem. The problem is what they go home to. That's the biggest issue. You might say, okay, well, this guy, he started a church, started business. I have 2 after-school programs. I have 3 contracts with the state of Massachusetts to be able to work with young people. I do very well for myself, right? But it all started with the decision that whatever happened at home had to stay at home. One of the biggest disservice that we do to our children is we will tell them what goes on in my house stays in my house. How many people have heard that statement over the years, right? How many of you told your children what goes on in my house stays in my house? I've seen a few people like, yeah, and it better. Right? The reality is that what goes on in your house doesn't stay in your house. And oftentimes that is said with, don't get out there and tell folks my business. But everything that goes on in your house affects your child. And it affects their ability to be able to be effective in an unfair situation while everybody has an unfair advantage. Starting school late, getting home late, starting school early, getting home late. Prime example, my story. I was a Division I recruit for Boston College, Michigan, Maryland, Notre Dame, right? I played football. This little short stubby guy, right? I used to be really, it wasn't tight here, it was tight here, And one of the things that I realized is that not only did I have the unfair advantage in education from students that were around me when I went home, I also dealt with issues from my house to the football field to the classroom. All those issues came upon me. You know what those issues look like? First of all, my mother was a single parent, married to somebody who we called Zero. Notice I say single parent, married to somebody called Zero. Why was she a single parent? Because who she elected to be with was somebody who really just didn't do anything. And that affected me because I had to call this guy dad even though he wasn't even my father. So I sit in the classroom. I think about how I have to step over this guy at 6:30 in the morning from coming in the night before drunk, strung out on drugs, okay, and ultra abusive. How was he abusive? Well, let me give you this story here. One day, moving, my sister and I were trying to change my room around. And he decides that he's going to stumble up the stairs. Now, the disadvantage is that my mother always worked nights. Always. From 11 to 7. While going to school during the day to try to become a nurse. To try to move after the American dream or try to provide for her children. And what I realized, ladies and gentlemen, is that not only did whoever she had in her life affect her, but it also affected us. One evening rather, this guy here, he decides that he doesn't want us changing the room around. Now, mind you, the joker ain't paid no bills in the house. You can't tell him. You really can't tell him what to do. Right? Would you agree? He doesn't want us to move the room around. So what he does is he comes in and he slams the bed, throws it all down, and then calls my mother to tell her that she needs to get home and deal with her kids. Now, to some of you, that's not your story. That's not your issue. Your husband's a great husband. You've got it all together. That's great. But there might be some other issues that come up, right? Here's where the ultimate line was drawn for me. That same night, he was drunk, mind you. Not only did he do what he did, messed up the beds, all this other stuff, here's what where he really crossed the line. He decides that the dog belongs to us and that he's not going to walk the dog. Mind you, we have to be up and at the bus stop at 6:30. He's not going to walk the dog. So you know what he does? He takes his time. We leave the house. He takes his time, waits to watch us leave, and then says to us, walk the dog. Not going to happen because the bus comes at 6:32. What do you mean? Here's what he does. When we come back home, there's dog feces smeared all on our bed. Okay? Now everybody would say, well, why didn't we call the fire and family? Here's why my mother didn't know. She would go from where? Work to school. Where? Back to work. She would have never known. How does this story relate to you? How does this story relate to your child? What does this have to do with you? Guess what? Everything that goes on in your child's life, yes, you are supposed to be their guardian, their protector, but you don't know all of everything that happens in the midst of their day-to-day operations and how it affects them in the classroom. Essentially, ladies and gentlemen, I went from being an ABC student, got to add in the C, okay? See me? Yes, I see you. C. Essentially down to failing grades. All because of what was going on at home. Now, how does this relate? One, I wish that my mother could have been involved more so in what was going on with me educationally. Because if she was involved with me educationally, there would have been much more opportunities afforded to me to avoid what was going on. How does that connect? Well, guess what? Education without attention is really a waste of time. Education without attention is really just a simple waste of time. You know why? Because everything that your child goes through at home, whether it's arguing, fussing, fighting, bickering, having somebody who's not their father tell them what to do, that they don't respect, all of that reflects. How about this part? Mommy and daddy not having opportunity enough to even go to their inner city games. All of that affects what they do. Tonight, my main responsibility and my hope is to try to bridge the gap between you and the real day-to-day operations of the church.